So who will be crowned the freestyle chess GOAT? Will it be this guy, Magnus Carlsen, or will it be this guy, Fabiano Caruana, a man who scraped through the semi-final against Levon Aronian? It's mouth-watering stuff. Why is it called freestyle chess? Well, look at the pieces here. They're completely jumbled up on the back rank, so they have to play freestyle. Now, it also gets called chess 960 because there's 960 different starting positions, or Fischer random, after the great Bobby Fischer who coined this whole idea. Don't know the details of all the history though. Now, in the first game, Fabi has the white pieces here. There's another game to be played tomorrow, and then it also goes to tie breaks if there's no score to decide it by that point after 2 games. So what does Fabi do? Well, he kicks off with pawn to d4 here. The clock times are on the left there. It's a classical time control, so they can think. They're playing out in Germany, beautiful location. Let's dive into this one. Magnus opens up the queen from the corner there, hits the unprotected pawn. So the knight develops, covers it. Now we get d6, Magnus not copying Fabi here. We've seen a lot of copycat, so this is refreshing not to get that one. e4, Fabi blasts his cannon there, this cannonball propelling down the board, and Magnus does likewise here. Now you can go d5 as I'm indicating, close the center here, but Fabi decides to take. Pawn recaptures, no queen trade. Those are bishops staring down opposite each other, not queens like we'd normally see. So we get full tension on the board, and Fabi turns into a b3 cowboy, preparing to fianchetto here. We get knight f6 from Magnus. Fabi fianchettos, looking at the e5 pawn, which is undefended. So Magnus has to drop back, and I've highlighted the pieces here because how clumsy do they look? You know, Fabi developing quite quick now. Bishop e2. He's prepared to castle in another move. And this is where you have to be so careful in this type of chess. You must unravel the pieces in the right way, or you can be lost after like 10 moves, right? Poor Ding showed that, got absolutely crushed this tournament, especially in one game. So we see f6 played by Magnus, supporting his centre. Never play f6, says Ben Feingold, but it's okay here, justified. Knight e3 now, looks at the d5 square. So bishop e7 from Magnus, activating. And now this is how you castle in Fischer random. So you pick up the king here and place it on top of the rook. Well, at least if you're doing it online anyway. And that castles the king to the usual square and the rook. But there must be no minor pieces or major pieces between king and rook. And the enemy pieces can't be having a line of check to interrupt the castling. If you went the other way, by the way, then you could do that here by putting the king on the rook, let go, and the king appears on g1, rook on f1. That's how it works. So this is what was played by Fabi. Magnus now goes knight e6, queen f1, sliding into the game. Magnus sliding into the game also. They've both got the sliders on, and now bishop a3 is a threat with this battery lined up. But Fabi unfazed. He goes bishop a4 here. Sorry, c4. I said a4 because the top engine move was pawn a4. It likes grabbing that space. But not played. The knight pressured. But Magnus now gets a small edge with knight to b6. He's about to pick up this light squared bishop, which is a good piece. So Fabi goes knight d5 here. Magnus doesn't yet take on c4. It was playable. He instead goes for this one, swapping the bishops. Fabi does it immediately. We get queen recaptures with check. Always play king b1, right? And now this pawn is under fire. So the queen slides back to defend. If you take the knight, not so hot, because then this one can recapture and you're slightly alleviating the pressure that you have on white. So instead, this queen slides back. Ask Fabi what he's going to play next. He does now go a4. Grab that space. Is a5 on the way? Well, Magnus still doesn't capture the bishop. It was playable, but he goes for this solid approach. kick that strong knight out of d5, it captures on b6, pawn recaptures, and now here Fabi plays a poor move. The top engine choice is queen d3, though navigating this stuff in unusual positions is tricky. Now why is this better? Well, you don't actually allow the rook to lift into the game. But what we see instead was bishop takes on e6, and Magnus had a great shot here. We're going to jump to the back cave once more, because if rook recaptures, you take control of this d6 square. There we go, I can draw an arrow. I don't know why the arrows weren't drawing a minute ago. And this is key, because now if Fabi goes queen d3, like we see in the game, there's this very powerful move of b5. Because if captures, then the queen comes into the attack, and this is devastating. And the key thing is, there's no queen d6 check, trading the queens because the rook covers the square. It's a huge attack. And if you don't take the pawn, well, what are you doing? Black's about to take here, rip everything open. It's not good. So that was the way to play. But Magnus, he misses it. He goes for the safe and steady move, understandable, but now things not so deadly for white, because queen d3, king c7 covers this invasion square, and after queen c3 from Fabi, opening the rooks, Magnus now just brings these queens into the game, preparing a trade. He wants to steer it towards an endgame, loves an endgame. Fabi doesn't yet take the ladies off. If you capture, pawn takes and you cover d4 one extra time. So instead we see rook e3. Now we get Magnus challenging the file here. A pair of rooks come off the board, king b2, and here Magnus invades with the rook. Fabi drops back, responding to this active piece. And if you capture here, well then queen recaptures, my mouse is playing up, and you cover this f2 pawn, so nothing is dropping. Therefore, instead, Magnus drops back, Fabi drops back, and yes, I'm sorry to disappoint, this is how the game ended. Game 1, peaceful draw, bit boring I'm afraid, but fear not, because if you want another epic game of chess by Magnus Carlsen that was entertaining, bloodshed everywhere, then hit the video on screen and don't forget to subscribe to never miss the final game coming tomorrow. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you soon.